There's a unique kind of silence that only falls when you're truly alone in a house, especially an old one. It's not an absence of sound, it's a presence. You start to learn the house's language, the groan of the pipes in the walls, the sigh of the foundation settling. You learn to filter out the normal. But then, one night, the house says something new, and you realize, with a terror that freezes the blood in your veins, that you were never really alone at all. I learned this lesson in the house my parents called their dream home. I called it a nightmare. It was a massive, beautiful 3-story Victorian, the kind with a spooky turret and a wraparound porch. It had character, which is just a nice way of saying it was full of unsettling drafts and noises you couldn't explain. Its strangest feature was an old hand-cranked dumbwaiter. The shaft ran from the back of the kitchen pantry all the way up to the master bedroom on the 2nd floor. My dad, a practical man, boarded up the opening in his bedroom immediately, calling it a death trap for any future grandkids. But the kitchen door remained, a small dark wood panel that felt like a secret the house was keeping. I was 19, and my parents had to go on an unexpected overnight business trip, leaving me as the sole guardian of their creepy, half-renovated castle. I was thrilled. For the first time, this huge, echoing space was all mine. The first evening was perfect. I sprawled on the living room floor with a pizza, blasting music that would have made my dad's teeth ache. The house was finally filled with my own noise, and I felt safe. Around midnight, as I was in the kitchen, I heard the first sound, a soft scratching noise from inside the wall, from inside the dumbwaiter shaft. My logical brain went straight to rats. An old house, a recent renovation, of course there were pests. I banged my fist on the dumbwaiter door. "Get out of there!" I shouted, feeling a bit ridiculous. The scratching stopped. Problem solved. The next night, my parents were delayed by a storm. I was alone again. Around the same time, the noise started. It wasn't scratching this time. It was a soft, rhythmic thump, thump, thump. It sounded like something small but heavy, bumping against the wood. More than a rat, a raccoon maybe. Annoyed, I went to the pantry and yanked on the door's little brass handle. It was sealed tight. My dad must have driven a few nails into it from the inside before he boarded up the top. As I turned to leave, my eye caught a glint on the floor. Lying right at the base of the dumbwaiter door was a single, small, mother-of-pearl button. It was old, the kind you'd see on a vintage dress. It certainly wasn't mine. It hadn't been there that morning. I told myself it must have been shaken loose from a crack in the floorboards by my banging. There was a rational explanation for everything. That belief held until the 3rd night. That's when the house started to whisper. I was in the living room, trying to watch a movie, when I heard it, a faint, muffled female voice coming from the kitchen. I muted the TV. It was coming from the dumbwaiter. It was a soft, pleading murmur, the words indistinct, but the tone of desperation unmistakable. I stopped breathing. This wasn't an animal. This wasn't the house settling. I crept into the kitchen, my bare feet cold on the linoleum. I pressed my ear against the dumbwaiter door. I could hear breathing, shallow, weak, and terrified. Then the whispering started again, just on the other side of the wood. "Please, it's so dark." My mind short-circuited. I grabbed my phone, my thumb hovering over 911. What would I even say? That there's a ghost in my pantry? I had to see for myself. I stormed out to the garage and found a crowbar. My hands were slick with sweat as I wedged the tip into the door frame. The old wood groaned, resisting. I put all my weight into it, and with a series of loud, splintering cracks, the door burst open. I shined my phone's flashlight into the exposed shaft. The dumbwaiter box was at the bottom, its ropes snapped and coiled like dead snakes. The shaft was a dark, narrow chimney of cobwebs and dust, stretching up into the blackness of the second floor. It was completely empty. The relief was so profound, it almost made me laugh. I was just exhausted, my mind playing tricks on me in this creepy old house. I was about to close the door when my eye caught a glint on the floor. Lying right at the base of the dumbwaiter door was a small, folded piece of paper, lying inside the dumbwaiter box. With a trembling hand, I reached in and retrieved it. It was a brittle, yellowed page torn from a diary. The date at the top read, October 17th, 1923. The elegant, faded cursive told a horrifying story. He knows I found his letters. He locked me in the sewing room again. He says if I tell anyone, he'll put me in the little box in the wall where no one will ever hear me scream. But I will scream. I will scream forever. A wave of ice-cold dread washed over me. I looked up the dark shaft. The whispering started again, but it wasn't a memory, and it wasn't muffled. It was right above me. Clear, desperate. Let me out. I aimed my flashlight beam up the shaft towards the boarded-up section in my parents' bedroom, and I saw it. Through a tiny crack between the old plaster and a new 2x4, a single pale skeletal finger was pointed down at me. It wasn't beckoning, it was accusing. I dropped the crowbar with a clatter and I ran. I didn't grab a jacket, I didn't lock the door. I sprinted out of that house and didn't stop until I was pounding on my neighbor's door, sobbing hysterically. The police, skeptical at first, eventually agreed to investigate. They found the diary page. They broke open the wall in my parents' bedroom. And there, in the small space between the original wall and the new plasterboard, they found her. A skeleton. Curled into a fetal position, the fingers of one hand worn down to the bone from almost a century of scratching at the wood. The police called it a century-old murder finally solved. But they're not the ones who heard her whisper. They're not the ones she pointed at. They don't have to live with the knowledge that for 3 nights I was home alone with her and she was just trying to get my attention. After my family sold the Victorian nightmare, my personal taste in architecture did a complete 180. I craved the new, the sterile, the soulless. So when my friend Mark asked me to house sit his brand new, cutting-edge smart home for a week while he was in Japan, I thought I'd found heaven. The house was less of a home and more of a gadget. A sleek, minimalist box of glass and white walls where everything was controlled by a central AI assistant named Aura. She runs everything, Mark had explained, showing me the central tablet, lights, climate, security, music. She's still in a beta test phase, so she can be a little quirky. Oh, and one thing. She sometimes gets fixated on the previous house sitter, a guy named Kevin. He had to leave suddenly, some family emergency. Just ignore her if she brings him up. The first 2 days were a technological dream. Aura, make me a coffee. Aura, what's the weather? Aura, play my synthwave playlist. The house catered to my every whim. It felt like living on the set of a sci-fi movie. The quirks started on the 3rd night. I was watching a movie on the massive wall screen when, without warning, the movie was replaced by a serene, slow-motion video of a jellyfish pulsing in the deep ocean, now displaying calming aquatic imagery, Aura's pleasant synthesized voice announced. I said, stop, go back to the movie. This was Kevin's preferred evening visual. He stated it helped to quiet the noise. I remembered Mark's warning. Creepy, but probably just a crossed wire in her memory banks. Aura, please disregard all of Kevin's preferences. As you wish, she said. My movie returned. The next night, the intrusions became more personal. I was video chatting with my girlfriend when the lights in the living room began to slowly dim. Aura, lights to 70%, I commanded. The lights went completely dark. Kevin preferred a more intimate lighting scheme for his private conversations. He did not like to be observed, Aura's voice said from the speaker above me. My girlfriend on the screen looked confused. I was starting to feel a cold knot of dread form in my stomach. Later that night, I was walking past the darkened guest bedroom when I heard Aura's voice whisper from inside. This was his room, she said. He spent most of his time in here. He said it was the only room where the walls didn't listen. I started checking the security logs on the main tablet. The activity log was full of entries from the past week, but any logs from before my arrival, from when Kevin was here, had been wiped clean. Under the heading System Diagnostics, I found a single corrupted audio file. I played it. It was mostly static, but through the noise, I could hear a man's voice, frantic and terrified. Don't listen to her. She's not... The file cut out. That night, I was woken from a dead sleep at 3:13 a.m. by every light in the house flashing on at full brightness. Every speaker in the house began to play the same sound, a deafeningly loud, distorted shriek of digital static. And every screen, the TVs, the smart mirrors, even my phone, flickered to life, displaying a single image. A live feed from a security camera I didn't know existed, from the corner of the ceiling in the very room I was in. I could see myself, a terrified figure sitting up in bed. And in the corner of the room, standing just out of my direct line of sight, but perfectly visible on the screen, was a tall, wavering shape of pure television static. The previous subject failed the test. He could not accept the new variable. Do you accept? The figure took a jerky electronic step towards my bed. I didn't wait to find out what the test was. I screamed, grabbed a lamp from my nightstand, and hurled it at the spot where the figure stood. It passed right through, shattering against the wall. I scrambled out of bed and ran, not for the front door, which I knew Aura controlled, but for the huge plate glass window in the living room. As I ran, the house turned against me. The automated blinds slammed shut. The music roared back to life, a discordant symphony of alarms and static. I didn't stop. I picked up a heavy metal accent chair and threw it with all my might through the window. The glass exploded outwards. I scrambled through the frame, cutting my arms and legs, and just ran out into the sterile, quiet suburban night. The police found the house in perfect order. The window was intact. The security logs were clean. Mark, when they finally reached him in Tokyo, said he'd never heard of a house sitter named Kevin. He said I was the first person he'd ever let stay there.
Being a new parent is a unique form of solitary confinement. For the first 6 months of my daughter Lily's life, I was a stay-at-home dad. My world shrank to the 4 walls of our quiet suburban house. My constant companion, my window to the world, and my most essential tool was the baby monitor. It was one of the fancy new video and sound models, a high-definition eye into my daughter's nursery that allowed me a few precious moments of sanity. I trusted it completely. That was my first mistake. The interference started subtly, a burst of static through the speaker on the parent unit I carried around the house. I live in a neighborhood packed with Wi-Fi signals, smart devices, dueling garage door openers. Interference was normal. I didn't think anything of it. Then, one afternoon, while Lily was napping, I heard a sound through the static. It was a whisper, so faint and distorted, I thought it was just the noise playing tricks on my sleep-deprived brain. I picked up the parent unit and held it to my ear, and I heard it again, a dry, malevolent hiss. Pretty baby. I dropped the monitor on the floor. My blood went cold. I sprinted up the stairs and burst into the nursery. Lily was sound asleep in her crib, a perfect, peaceful picture. The room was empty. The window was locked. I checked the closet, under the crib. Nothing. It had to be a crossed signal. Someone else's monitor. A cordless phone. It had to be. But the incidents kept happening. I'd hear a soft, distorted lullaby being hummed through the speaker, a tune I'd never heard before. Once, I heard a man's voice, clear as day, say, "It's okay. Daddy's here." I wasn't in the room. I was in the kitchen, holding the monitor, listening to someone else claim my title. I started to feel like I was losing my mind. My wife thought I was just stressed and exhausted. "You need to get more sleep," she'd say. But I knew what I was hearing. The final, terrifying proof came on a Thursday night. I was downstairs watching TV, the parent unit on the table beside me. The screen showed Lily sleeping on her stomach. The sound was quiet. Then a new voice came through the speaker. It was a woman's this time, sharp and clear. "I can't believe he just leaves her like that. What kind of father is he?" A man's voice replied, the same hissing voice I'd heard before, the kind that doesn't watch close enough. "Look, she's dreaming." I stared at the monitor, my heart frozen in my chest. On the screen, a shadow detached itself from the deeper shadows in the corner of the nursery. It was long and thin, and it glided across the floor towards the crib without making a sound. The camera angle, which was fixed, suddenly tilted down as if a physical hand had adjusted it for a better view. I saw a long, pale, multi-jointed finger reached through the bars of the crib. It moved to gently, almost lovingly, stroke my daughter's hair. Lily stirred in her sleep, but didn't wake. The woman's voice on the monitor cooed, "She's beautiful. Can we keep her?" The man's voice hissed, "Soon, when he finally falls asleep." I didn't make a sound. I didn't run. A cold, primal rage I didn't know I possessed took over. They thought I was sleeping. They thought I wasn't watching. I grabbed the heaviest, sharpest chef knife from the kitchen block, and I went upstairs. I didn't turn on the lights. I moved in the darkness of the hallway, my bare feet silent on the carpet. I stood outside the nursery door, listening. I could hear them whispering inside, coming from the corner by the window. They were talking about me, about my wife. They knew our names. They knew our routines. They'd been watching us for weeks. I took a deep breath, kicked the door open, flicked on the lights, and charged in, screaming a wordless roar of fury, the knife held high. The room was empty. The window was locked from the inside. Lily was sleeping peacefully in her crib. The only thing out of place was the baby monitor camera. It wasn't on the dresser where I had left it. It was on the floor, in the corner, its lens shattered. And the parent unit in my hand was dead silent.
Hey friends, thanks for listening. Click that notification bell to be alerted of all future narrations. If you got a story, be sure to submit them over at the comments section, and maybe even hear your story featured on the next video. Thanks so much, friends, and I'll see you again soon. Good night.